following presentation is for educational purposes only. All of the symbols, trading ideas, and live trading are for demonstrational purposes and are not recommendations or trading advice. Past performance may not be indicative of future results. All of the information and opinions expressed by third-party guests are their own and are not necessarily those of NinjaTrader LLC. Trading futures involve substantial risk and may not be suitable for everyone, and trading futures can result in losses greater than the initial required margin. Traders should only trade futures with risk capital. Risk capital is money that you can afford to lose without jeopardizing your financial security or current lifestyle. You can find additional disclosure information on the NinjaTrader website.
And on Traders Workshop, we like to bring in our NinjaTrader ecosystem partners so that they can share their expertise with you, the NinjaTrader user. And this week, of course, is no different. We're bringing back on a partner of ours that we had on when we first started Traders Workshop, weekly show, Tuesdays, noon. It's my pleasure to welcome back. It's been a little bit, but always great to see them. Jeremy Tang and Zach White from SharkIndicators. How you guys doing?
Doing great. Doing
All
great.
right.
That reminds me, we've been NinjaTrader partners since about 2012.
Oh,
So we're coming up on 12 years now.
wow. How's it
Yeah.
been?
Time flies.
It's been a great ride. Yeah. It's NinjaTrader has been a fantastic partner
Oh,
supporting us kind of every bit of the way. It's been awesome.
And it's great to see all the improvements they've been making on the platform too. So,
oh, that's great.
yeah.
That's great. Yeah. I mean, I've been here a short 2 years, a little bit over 2 years. And just the advances they made in the 2 years have been pretty amazing. But good to hear from, your experience, your
I've been
longevity.
using NinjaTrader since 06, actually.
Oh, wow.
Quite some
Okay.
time. Yeah. Got some history with NinjaTrader.
One of the OGs. That's
Yeah.
great. So, before we jump into the topic at hand, let's just maybe, Jeremy, you lead off, explain who you are and what SharkIndicators, how it came about, and then Zach, you'll do the same, I guess.
Sure thing. Again, like I mentioned, we started about 12 years ago. And the short end of the story is Zach and I were trying to build a automated trade system based off of like someone else's trading pattern, trading style. And one of the difficulties we ran into almost right away was that the trade system itself was evolving quite quickly and constantly. And so every time I try to code it up, by the time I had finished coding it, the system would be modified in some or tweaked in some way, and I could never keep up. And so that there were other kind of little reasons why, but along the way I decided, well, you know what? Why don't we just build something that I could really quickly prototype and create new systems without having to code. And so eventually I figured, well, like, not only do I enjoy doing this, like building the tool more than the other thing, we ended up with basically a no-code solution, allowing traders to build their trade systems and express their trade systems in the computer. And what that really leads to is the ability to use that to backtest and to actually trade live, completely automated or semi-automated, however they'd like. And that's basically what our company is all about.
That's great. And Zach, you've been at SharkIndicators from the beginning as well.
Yes. Yeah. Actually, yeah. Jeremy and I had been friends for a couple of years before Jeremy actually opened up SharkIndicators. Yeah. So we were coding together, basically Jeremy's story. We were working together. Yeah. And, we were just like Jeremy said, we couldn't code fast enough. And so Jeremy created this kind of modular written code, so things could be implemented faster, but it was still coding. Yeah. And then he put this nice interface on top of it, which was no coding at all. And that's how we got to, where we're at right now.
Well, and that's what I think is so great is, as a non-programmer, I didn't go to school for programming. If you're in the tech world, sometimes you pick something up or you learn it to fit your needs. And that's kind of parallel what you just said, Jeremy and Zach, which is, you coded something to fit something very specific, but it, the greater thing I think was building this modular no code system for somebody like me who is, coding to me is not natural. It's a different kind of language. So to have something that takes my language and I can express myself in my language, but translate it to the screen is just like a great thing. It's just an advancement that's so great.
Yeah,
I say
I
even
think that
for developers, it's great. I mean, like it's just I've been coding NinjaScript for like what almost a better part of a decade now, and I would still prefer to use a no-code solution.
Yeah.
It's just way faster.
Yeah, Jeremy, I think it's been about 15 years since we
Yeah,
first got together.
yeah,
And I think that the bigger theme of this is really putting the power of your computer to use for you. I'm not a programmer by trade like Jeremy is, but in the various jobs I've had, like the last major job going back to, I was doing civil engineering and using AutoCAD. And AutoCAD had a very simple Lisp programming routine. And I learned to use that to help automate my drafting skills. And there was one major project that I got hired for temporarily with the company before going into civil engineering, where the learning to code in AutoCAD helped automate what we were doing like by tenfold.
Wow.
So that's really what this is all about, is put that CPU to use for you to help, offload and make things faster. And then basically that's what we've done here with Bloodhound, for traders is, let the computer do all that calculation for you instead of looking at the charts and trying to do all the math in your head yourself.
Oh, for sure, for sure. Yeah, I mean that's something that I think if you're doing any kind of back testing or analysis of your trading, it's got to be this. It's got to be automated. It's got to be something where, I've heard of people back testing and they go through each trade. It's like that's really time consuming, right? That to me is like let's draw our charts on, let's just go back to graph paper and draw our charts. But seriously, maybe we could take a look at Bloodhound and kind of walk us through the steps of maybe maybe not soup to nuts today, but let's start. Like, where do you start? You have an idea. So if you have an idea that Jeremy and Zach, you've talked about, something that a trader might look for, maybe we can go from the chart to Bloodhound and back again.
Yeah, so this is something that was literally thrown at me last Thursday during the training workshop that I host here. And it was a new trader, new to our software, and he just wanted to get a good feel for, for what it could do, and so he kind of threw the typical indicators at me, the MACD and the stochastics, and a couple of moving averages, and he was trying to develop kind of a counter trend, detect overbought situations, and generate a nice little buy signal for you. And if it's oversold, then generate a short signal for you. Yeah. So he just kind of threw a bunch of stuff at me and I tried to put it all together as best I could, and this is what we kind of ended up with here. And, so to demonstrate, it didn't take actually too much, but, each of these little nodes represent a condition here, so like the first one there, and this is exactly what traders are doing when they put indicators on their chart, so this one identifies when the faster moving average is above or below the slower moving average. And again, this is counter trend, so everything's kind of backwards, right? So the faster one's above the slower one, and we're actually getting a short output. All right.
Okay.
And so this is what Bloodhound's doing is it's giving you a bias here, a buying bias or a selling bias like that. Right. And the simple the simple version of this is, you just kind of create all your conditions that you're looking for, stack them all together, and you let the computer calculate all that for you and kind of just show you the simple result there on the chart like that.
So just to, kind of um, look at it another way is you've got these indicators. They might be, in different panels and in the same panel as your data. They're kind of spread out, right?
Yeah.
And to determine when something lines up, right? Because you've got multiple indicators and you want them to fulfill a condition, and maybe it's not all of them. Maybe it's only 5 of 6 or 4 of 6 or whatever. Like to do that in your head or to look at it on a screen, unless you've been doing this for a very, very long time, it's not gonna click. So you let Bloodhound do it. You let the computer do it.
Yeah, it's very mentally fatiguing. For anybody out there who has actually done some serious day trading, and trying to make money at it. And, after you've been staring at a chart for 3 hours, it is very mentally fatiguing and you're
Sure.
like ready for a nap.
Right.
That's what day trading is, can be like. Yeah, unless you get a lot of coffee. So,
Right.
yeah. Yeah. So that's a good way of putting it. Yeah.
So okay, so let's go back to that programming interface, because I think this is where you're the real it's kind of a strength, right? Of Bloodhound. I really like this, which is instead of having lines of code, you've got these objects, right? And maybe I'm using the wrong term, but I look at them as like objects that once you've programmed them, yes, there's some sort of program, but it's almost like you're programming it in English or in a natural language rather than computer
Lines of
language,
code. Yeah.
right? Lines of code again,
Right.
and then physically connecting it into, an output, a result, as we say.
Yeah. Yeah. Joining them together here, with logic, right? Because, basically you're saying, I want this condition and this condition and this condition, and this condition, so on and so forth, right? And you just put them into an and node. So, thankfully, scientists and software engineers speak English too. So a lot of this is English, so we have an and node here. Yeah. And it just tells you when all those conditions line up. Yeah.
And that's that bottom panel, right? That's the histogram, so to speak. It's binary. It's one or nothing, right? It's true or false.
Yep. Right. Just gives you a very simple answer there. Yeah. Yeah.
The one thing
we had Bloodhound designed to give you this kind of fuzzy logic, which was great for discretionary traders, right? Because this, now you look at this and you're like, looking at the green output versus the red, and it's kind of giving you a bias here, but we found out that basically, traders want something a lot more simpler. So, so we kind of, went more direct to the simpler output like that.
But can we just look at that panel one more time? Is that kind of taking those 6 inputs and weighing them as positive, negative, and
right?
Kind of counting it that way.
Yeah. This time, instead of an AND node, I'm actually using a ratio node.
Okay.
And these have been modified a little bit so that they give you what's called a fuzzy logic, in technical terms, output there, and which is more like what a human does, so like when you're looking at your moving average, you might be looking at, okay, well, how much is it moving up? How much is it sloping up?
Right.
What's the angle on that? What's the angle on my MACD and stuff like that? So if you really want to get a little more sophisticated, you can look at the angles and get a variable output instead of a simple yes or no output, and get this variable output.
Yes.
Kind of help keep you on the right side of the market according to your indicators.
So one thing I think, which whenever we talk about comparisons like moving averages, we hear so much about the moving average cross, but you also hear about it in stochastics and RSI. We cross above the overbought level or cross below the overbought level. Same thing with oversold. The one thing I think that it's natural to do for new traders, but something we have to be careful about, is coding those conditions to be all crosses, right? That's actually going to be very detrimental, right? Because you probably won't ever get a hit if you code it all as crosses. It's more comparisons is what I'm seeing on
Right,
your
right.
code.
Actually, I would say that's not totally true, because one of the first systems that I used to demonstrate for stock trading was a triple crossover. Let's see if I can remember it. It was the MACD crossing over the zero line, the stochastics crossing over their overbought and oversold. And I think the last one was a moving average crossover.
Right.
And when all those lined up within a few bars of each other, it actually gave you some decent buy and sell for individual stocks, if you were swing trading, so it kind of gave you that a swing trading kind of heads up, like your standard your standard MACD and stochastics and moving average crossovers were all lining up, so take a look at this stock. Maybe it is something of interest.
Right, but they happened within a couple bars of each other, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, yeah. It was rare that they lined up exactly on the same bar. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying is it's like natural to say, I want a crossover of this, and this. And if you don't give it that wiggle room for within a couple of bars, you'd be
yes,
hard pressed to find all three of those things crossing on the same day or the same, right? So
very true. Right.
Just something to watch out, because I've seen so many times where I'd help people with back testing and they'd, it isn't working. I don't get any signals.
They're like,
and
no
I
signals.
know
Right.
what's happening. Right.
Right. Over 1 year, I got one signal. Right.
Right. It's like, no, you're doing it right. You just have to change some conditions.
Yeah. And you add that 3 or 4 bar variance leeway. Yeah. And all of a sudden now you got 30 signals. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. So okay. So now we have, this idea that where you have those green, I don't know what you call them, vertical
racing stripes.
Right. Okay. I like that.
We actually had a friend of ours, and Jeremy and I had no idea what to call these.
Yeah.
And he called them racing stripes.
He was just stumbling for his words. He was like, what do you need them racing stripes? He was like, I guess from, he had kind of
I think it was a bit of a Southern racer.
Yeah, a Southern accent.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Stuck. So
it was in the NASCAR and stuff like that.
I like that.
So it kind of stuck. Yeah.
So you get the racing stripes, and what's kind of the next steps? Okay, so I can see them on my chart, right?
Yeah.
But then where do you take it from there?
Right. So Bloodhound is the indicator part, which is doing all the math behind the scenes, right? And then within NinjaTrader, the next step is let's get it up there, is to go into the strategies. So the strategy class is what manages orders. So, this class was specifically designed to make it easier to buy and sell, to submit those buy and sells, to manage orders and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So if I pull up Bloodhound here, and actually, I didn't actually prepare Blackbird, sorry. I get my children mixed up, Bloodhound and Blackbird. So,
like it.
Yeah, I kind of brings me back to days when I was a kid, and I'd be called Chris, right. My brother's name.
Right, exactly.
So with Blackbird, that's the strategy where you would input, your entry orders, your exit orders, do you want to get in with a market order or a limit order, and what exactly is your target, what's your profit target distance and your stop loss distances and things like that. And once you got that all figured out there, that is when you can then back test. Yeah. So NinjaTrader's got a really powerful back testing engine there, that you can take your ideas. So if I pull in these Bloodhound signals, which we probably don't want to back test, this was, again, just a new customer trying to get a feel for, what
sure.
it does here.
Sure.
But you would plug in, your entry signals, with your entry and exit orders like that, and then NinjaTrader will give you the results of that and let you know if you're headed in the right direction or not. Maybe you should
Right.
take a look at your idea. So,
Yeah, that's one of the things of Blackbird. What was the major objective was making backtesting, I would say, even possible for most users, because I I think if you really think about it, and most people take that leap, in order to backtest, you actually need a full-blown auto trader, right?
Mhm.
You have to actually tell the computer when you're going in, how those trades are going to be managed throughout the trade, and how they're exiting. And really, you can only accomplish that by having a full-blown auto trader, which implies essentially you either got to develop one from scratch, um, or buy one off the shelf, or use a tool like ours where you can use it to design your own kind of auto trading, your own trade system. So the options are
Well,
actually quite limited for most people.
right. So, what you're saying is I've got this idea, I've coded it, Bloodhound, it looks great. It's triggering where I would expect it to for the most part, right? It's taking that heavy lift from me and I want to trade it. So I want to test it. I want to see if this is valid. But it just opens up the rest of trading, right? The signal is just the first part. The rest of trading is, like you said, okay, once you take the signal, what are you doing? You're putting in stops, you're
Hmm.
putting in profit targets. Maybe there are multiple ways of getting out of the trade, right? So you have an initial stop loss, you have a trailing stop loss. Do you scale in, right? If it's going in your favor, do you add to the trade? Do you scale out if it hits your maybe a multiple target? Like there's all these decisions. It's not just okay, I've got my entry, let's go, let's test it. You've got to develop the rest of the trade system, right?
Hmm.
Before you can
yeah,
even think about saying, is this a good signal?
managing your position, yes, is the other half of the
Yeah.
battle.
Yeah.
I actually remember a story. Like I was in a classroom. This is more than 15 years ago, about 15 years ago, when they actually did live classrooms, when they teach people how to trade. And the instructor was up at front and said, I could give this classroom full of 50 people, I can give all of you the same trade signals, all the same entries, and I'd get 50 different results.
Right.
His point being, of course, there's so much that can happen when you're managing the trade that it creates so much variance. So therefore it's basically, I would argue, in a lot of discretionary traders that we come across, would argue it's actually more important than the entry signals themselves.
Interesting. Okay. What I like about it is it takes away that emotion to some extent, right? So if you code the exits, you code the stop losses, you code the profit targets, however you want to try trading this signal. It's not like you're sitting there waiting and you're watching this trade develop and you get nervous and say, I'm going to take my profit now, or I've lost too much, I'm going to get out. Even though my trade system says this, right? It takes out that emotion. And that could be the reason for 50 different results as well. But interesting that you say the entry is the most important part, maybe of developing a trade system for sure. I hear a lot of times it's the loss management, right? Cut your winners, cut your losers early so you don't lose too much. But yeah, for sure. I mean, you got to focus on the entry, right? That's where it all starts.
Well, his point was, and the point I wanted to make actually, it's the entry. Most people figure that's where they focus most of their efforts. But in reality, it's the trade management that's actually more impactful on your
Okay.
success or failure, not the entries. I mean, arguably the entries are of course important, but like a really good trader can take a lousy entry and still eke out either a little profit or minimize their loss just based off of how they manage the trade.
Gotcha. Now, I know we're running up against time. This goes quick. Is there the capability when going back to that entry, of course, optimizing, right? Just maybe tweaking some of the parameters and all that, but you could probably do that with the exits as well, right? As far as uh,
Yeah,
how many ticks you can have a loss, all
right.
that.
It's real simple. Yeah, to go in here and adjust things. again, that's kind of the point of our tools, and this simple to use interface here that Jeremy made is to be quickly and easily go in here and make some adjustments. Yeah. And then run another test and see how that impacted. Yeah.
That's great. So, I think we'll explore further in your next, your next appearances, a little more in depth on that. But, maybe, taking this idea, showing this was fairly complex, right? I mean, that entry looked like 6 moving parts to it.
Yeah. He's checking the I guess, the extra added parts here that most people aren't thinking about is he was asking, can I check what the angle is of the MACD and the angle of the stochastics there?
Interesting.
And that's kind of the extra parts, because really, this is the moving average one. This is the MACD, comparing the MACD to the signal. This is those stochastics, the percent D to K. And then the others are checking the slope, like what, is the indicator flat? In which case I don't want to do anything. If it's flat, I want to make sure that there's a good angle on it.
Right.
Yeah, so that's what these other extra elements are. Yeah, is adding that extra level of detail of, making sure there's a good angle. Yeah.
Now for new people, would you recommend more of like, let's look at 1 or 2 signals, 1 or 2 conditions that might be, something you're looking for, start that way and then build on that?
Really just dive right in, because a lot of people that approach us, they already have an idea in mind, and that's all they can think about. Trying to get them to think about something else, they're like, no, I've got an idea, I want to see it on the chart, can you help me out?
Oh, that's good. That's good.
So
people know what they want. Awesome.
Yeah, they know what they want, right? And so they're eager to go. Yeah,
for sure. Okay, well, we've run out of time. It goes by so fast, but where can people find you?
At SharkIndicators.com.
Yeah,
best place.
Yeah.
So here we go. Yeah,
Put that up. Thanks, Zach. Yeah.
There's our website.
Awesome. Okay, good. Well, I hope everybody can take a look. Someone who's done a lot of back testing in my career. This is a really cool tool that just sits on NinjaTrader platform and helps you explore your ideas. So we'll have you back on in a couple weeks, and we'll do a little more.
Okay,
sounds good.
That's good, Tom.
Thanks,
thanks
Tom.
again.
Thanks for hosting us.
All of the symbols, trading ideas, and live trading are for demonstrational purposes and are not recommendations or trading advice. Past performance may not be indicative of future results. All of the information and opinions expressed by third-party guests are their own and are not necessarily those of NinjaTrader LLC. Trading futures involve substantial risk and may not be suitable for everyone, and trading futures can result in losses greater than the initial required margin. Traders should only trade futures with risk capital. Risk capital is money that you can afford to lose without jeopardizing your financial security or current lifestyle. You can find additional disclosure information on the NinjaTrader website.